Ghost Riders in the Sky, today on the Music Universe podcast.
This episode of the Music Universe podcast is sponsored by Aroma Retail.
Both Buddy and I own and love their machines. I use their travel-size diffuser and it fills my whole apartment.
And Matt, their home unit can get your whole house smelling refreshed. And if you have a lot of pets like I do, you definitely need it. With some of your favorite fragrances from resort destinations around the world, there is definitely something for everyone.
Yeah, they have 90 fragrances available for diffusing as room and linen sprays. I know you might like that because the dogs and cats jump on the beds. There's candles and even wax melters. Those are fun.
Head over to aromaretail.com and use code MUSICUNI10 for 10% off your order.
And that is 10 on that 10. MUSICUNI10. Scent your space with Aroma Retail.
I'm all blinged out, buddy.
I see that. I love those Manuels. They're really cool.
I have too many of them now. They're like I don't collect art. I collect Manuels.
Well, it's art. It's a type of art.
It is a type of art, and Manuel is 90, and he still has input in them. You should see it's still in Pennsylvania because I backpacked from Pennsylvania. Well, I didn't backpack as in hike, but I only took the backpack from Pennsylvania to a personal weekend in Massachusetts to see a certain cowboy for the 16th and 17th time. And I left like nearly everything, including my Zoom that goes in the podcast studio that's in a closet over there. Left nearly everything in Pennsylvania, including the Manuel that they sort of fixed up for me, put my name in the tag. This is my very first one, and it's the only one that I have that has a little bit of bling to it. So I had to wear it for our interview with Ranger Doug Green of Riders in the Sky. Too Slim was supposed to be with us as well, but he fell ill, lost his voice, didn't even sing when they appeared on the Opry the night before our interview. And it was a lot of fun talking with Doug, though, because we hear about the beginning in the 70s, the little bit of change up, and how the fact that even though they are a music and comedy duo, the comedy was just a natural byproduct of their camaraderie, or the comedy was just a byproduct of their camaraderie and was never supposed to, when they first formed, they didn't know that was going to be in there, a part of their identity. And we talk about everything because I said, listen, for this interview, you'll see me stand up. I said, for this interview, I had to wear the Manuel, and Doug laughed, and we talked about, the inspiration for wearing the flashy shirts and jackets like they do, and gave me another tip of a designer who studied under Manuel in Hollywood and now has a shop in Hollywood. And I'm thinking great. I need
great.
Yep.
Great.
It continues.
No.
But
no. I gotta stop it. Yeah. I'm gonna call your mother. That always gets you to almost hang up on me every time I mention that.
I'm almost a 28-year-old man. I think I can make irresponsible decisions without my mother yelling at me.
Yeah, but then I'm the driver, so I'm held responsible for enabling that irresponsibility.
You got an Apple Watch just because Buddy and his daughter have an Apple Watch.
Well, let me tell you, if, and this is big if, you do that, and it's relatively close to the Danico factory,
right?
We'll try to hit both.
Right.
Because yes, when we were in Nashville in April, I kind of fell in love with some Danicos. You were back there in May, and I, paid you to go get me some shirts.
My return ticket to, I'm just thinking out loud here, my return ticket to DC was so expensive, I might be able to actually transfer it to fly out to LA, and you can meet me there, and we can do the Grammy Museum. We can.
Oh, let's talk to Ranger Doug now.
Okay. The other thing you should know is, if you don't know the name, I do think my generation will know the music. Your generation will know the music from Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
They had two songs in Toy Story 2. Very, very iconic. They won a Grammy for the Toy Story 2 album, or the album they put together
The
with that
soundtrack.
music for the soundtrack. Yes. Very, very cool. They have 40 albums altogether throughout their almost 45-year career, though they turned 45 this year. And I think they have two Grammys, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken, and you might have to edit that part out. But um, they're a very, very well accomplished group. And I think when we saw them on the Opry, and this is what led me to want to interview with them, one of the most entertaining people we saw that night at the Opry. And the Opry, for anybody who's never been, is quite the marathon. It's about 2.5 hours. You get a bunch of groups that come in, they have an intermission, and writers played before intermission and earned a standing ovation. And Doug said he remembered that show because it was one of only 4 times on the Opry that they've gotten a standing ovation. So without
Well,
giving, go ahead.
I'm going to say I don't have to do any editing. You were correct. 2 Grammys.
2 Grammys, yes. See, I retain weird facts and then I second guess myself. So without any spoiling any more of the interview, here is our interview with Ranger Doug Green from Riders in the Sky. Ranger Doug Green, welcome to the Music Universe podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm excellent, Matt. Thank you very much. Enjoying my stay here at the Harmony Ranch in Nashville.
Oh, that's awesome. That is
Happy
awesome.
to speak with you.
So I had wanted to ask, to start all of this off, you guys, Riders in the Sky, are members of the Grand Ole Opry, and it's kind of a result of an initiative you took to write Hal Prince when he was the manager of the Opry, to write him and say you wanted to be a member. Tell me about that back in 1982.
Hal Durham?
Yeah, Hal Durham. I'm sorry.
Well, we had, of course, we knew him, and we had guested on the Opry, I think, 25 times.
Mhm.
And we were bringing something different, something that didn't conflict with any other member's music or style. And yet it was part of what you could call, I suppose, one of the branches of the country music tree, the Western branch. And they didn't have anybody else on there that did that.
Yes.
So, being the fearless and unafraid of rejection kind of fellow that I am,
Yeah.
I just went to Hal and said, we've done well on the Opry. People have enjoyed us, and we do something completely different from anyone else. And we think we love the Opry. We've grown up with the Opry, and we think that we'd be a nice addition if you would consider it. And he did consider it, and he did ask formally.
Mhm.
And next month, on June 19th, will mark the day that Ernest Tubb introduced us as the newest members of the Grand Ole Opry on June 19th.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So now let's go all the way back to the formation of Riders. What came first, the music or the comedy? And how did you guys evolve not only as a band but as an act?
Well, the music for sure. I had
Mhm.
tried 2 or 3 times to put together little groups. I had done some solo work, which I hate, as a Western singer, and I had got together guys from other bands, and there are a million good musicians in Nashville, but I didn't ever find the people that had the passion for the Western music, for harmony. They could play the daylights out of what they could play, but they just didn't have the passion for it. Until I found Too Slim.
Mhm.
And then he and I had played in several little jug bands and bluegrass bands and all the kind of things you do when you're trying to somehow start a career. And a friend of ours, who actually had been a friend of my brother's in grade school, who had moved to Nashville and was a terrific guitar player, Windy Bill Collins, and a girl named Patty Hall, a wonderful folk singer, songwriter, said about 1 or 2 days out, hey, I'm really feeling terrible. I need somebody to fill in. Would you fill in for me at this little club called Herr Harry's Franks and Steins, which obviously served beer and hot dogs. So I said, sure. And I called up Slim and said, Slim, would you? Well, he was Fred then. Called us, Fred, would you like to play the bass and we'll learn some cowboy songs? And he said, yeah, can I play the upright bass? And I said, you have to play the upright bass. And he said, well, I don't have a hat. I said, well, I have a hat. I'll give you a hat. And he and I and Bill got together for one rehearsal, and then we went on the next night and laughed our asses off. To be honest, uh, Bill was a very funny guy, and Slim, of course, is a genius comedian. And I used to think I was a funny guy till I met Slim, and we just made each other laugh all night and had so much fun and just loved singing this harmony, and bringing this music, which at that point was sort of relegated to the dusty nostalgia bins in the record store. And we were young guys, and we were bringing it back to life, and caught on pretty quickly. And around August of the next year, which was 1978, Bill felt that he didn't know that there was any real future in this, and he had a pretty good steady job with Dickie Lee, the country singer. So he said, "I'm going to retire." And Woody Paul had come up shortly before that, and seeing one of our little club shows, said in his modest and humble way, "Boys, I think you could use me." so, so he joined in August of '78, and we did our first road dates at the Kentucky State Fair. 10 days in the vegetable hall of giant vegetables for 2,500 bucks, and things took off from there.
I love it. You know, it was one of those things where I saw you on the Opry, and I'm like, no, these guys, saw them on TV on the Opry growing up, but I know that music. And we'll get to it a little bit. We'll get to why I know that music in a while, a little bit. But it's what you said just there, that Western style was relegated. And so often we hear country and Western just to describe country music. So I want to invite you, in your own words, just describe Western music versus country music.
I often say that we're the Western 1% of country and Western. Well, to me, it's there are Western love songs, of course, right back to the very beginning, to Red River Valley. They've sung, cowboys have sung about love and romance, but basically it's the Sons of the Pioneers, brilliant songwriting of Tim Spencer and Bob Nolan, kind of opened it up to an appreciation of the outdoors, of the West, of the scenery, of the majesty of the West. And the songs that they wrote were not so much about moving cattle along or stampedes like the earlier cowboy songs had been. They were really about appreciation of the outdoors and the Western way of life, and that just so appealed to me and to Slim and to Woody. As Woody often says, his impetus to get into this music was it was all about the outlaw movement in the '70s,
Right.
and he just said to himself, "Well, where are the guys with the white hats? I grew up with the Lone Ranger and Cheyenne and Sugarfoot. I just I want to see the good guys win a few here." And so he started completely separately from me, and although I'd known him, I mean, any Nashville's music community, you kind of get to know everybody
Mhm.
else who plays acoustic music. At least in the '70s, there's so many more now that it's not quite the same. But it was a small community, and I knew Woody, and but he began writing cowboy songs on his own too, and I was writing cowboy songs on my own, and Slim was writing country songs for a while, and he got into the Western feel too, because we all grown up with it. We
Right.
Gene Autry and Roy Rogers were on television, as well as those Warner Brothers non-singing westerns, and we'd all grown up with western movies. It was part of our childhood, and we all kind of had this universal feel that something precious was being ignored, that this was a valuable sort of music, a valuable slice of the very varied American musical pie, and we didn't want to see it disappear. So there was a mission at the start to keep it alive and keep it going. And the comedy, as you say, just came along from the very first night. It wasn't a planned thing. It's just Slim calls it organic,
Oh
an
yeah.
organic comedy. We just you say something funny, and if people laugh, it stays in the show. You know, if they don't laugh, you don't say it again.
I love it. And I love the way that you guys dress as well. I figured you probably wouldn't be dressed, but I had to put on the Manuel just because I was talking to you guys. When did that come about? See, I love to talk to we could talk music all day long, but when I saw you guys on the Opry, the reason I want to talk to you is because you're the whole package and it makes me so curious. When did this element come in? When did that element come in? So we talked about the comedy, we talked about the music. What about that style of dress, the flamboyant cowboy style of dress for you guys?
Oh, that was there from the very start. We
Oh,
all we
cool.
all dressed up like that from the start. We loved those great outfits Roy Rogers used to wear and Gene
Yeah.
Autry used to wear, and just uh, some of the groups like the Chuckwagon groups who kept the style going bravely through the '60s and '70s when it wasn't so popular. You know, they more dressed like working cowboys, jeans and checkered shirts, and I understand that approach, but we just loved that movie look. We wanted to recreate that really romantic uh, era of Western music like Rex Allen and Roy Rogers wore.
Love it. I love it. I so throughout the 80s, once the lineup was set, what where other than the Opry, where would you guys perform? You mentioned state fairs, you released dozens and dozens of records, and it seems like you never stopped touring.
Well, only the COVID-19 stopped us from touring.
Right.
We still love bringing our music all over America and the world. It's just and that's been one of my things I've loved about it. We played every state. We played like 17 foreign countries. We've seen things I never would have gotten to see if I was a teacher or an insurance executive or something, you know.
Yeah. It's amazing. And then in the late 90s, you get a call from the Walt Disney Company for Toy Story 2. Tell us about that. I mean, how did Disney find you guys?
Well, it's a great story. It's actually to put a fine point on it. It was Pixar that called us.
Right.
We and the way they tell it, they were having a storyboard meeting. They decided that when they put Woody on the screen, they would play a bit of music to like a '50s theme song.
Mhm.
And so they asked Randy Newman to write one, and he did. And if you can imagine Randy Newman singing it, uh, they knew they had to get somebody that sounded like an authentic group from the period. Luckily, we had a mole in the organization, a young man named Ash Brannon, who was one of the producers, and he said, "Oh, I know the guys." And so he went to our website, downloaded yodeling, and they all looked at each other with great big eyeballs and said, "Those are the guys." So they called us up and said, "Would you be interested in appearing in singing a song in the movie Toy Story 2?" And we considered it deeply for an eighth of a second and said, "Yes!" And that's how we got the job.
I love it. And what did that do? I mean, you guys had established such a name for yourselves among country music fans. What did that do once Toy Story came out? What did that do for your popularity as a group once the music hit theaters and hit home video
Well, as you
and the
can
record?
imagine, there was a nice boost. I've often thought of our career as having three big waves.
Hmm.
And the first one was the early '80s when we did Austin City Limits and joined the Grand Ole Opry in 1982. And then that, the calmed down, and then we did that TV show on CBS, and that was a nice big wave, the kids show Saturday morning. And then that calmed down a little bit, and suddenly here's Toy Story 2, and that's a great big wave. So it really prolonged our career. I'm kind of waiting for the fourth wave, but so far I'm still waiting.
Oh, it'll come. I'm sure it will. But
We've stayed busy. We've done
yeah,
over 7,800 appearances, so
that's
we're
amazing.
staying busy.
That's amazing. Are you working on any new music, any new albums to add to the literally over 40 records that you guys have released?
Well, that's a funny thing. Really, we're not.
Mm,
We're thinking of putting together an album of greatest hits for our 45th anniversary from older cuts that we've gotten the rights to. But we sort of feel that uh, we got a lot of stuff out there already with 40 albums out there, and everyone's available thanks to the digital
mhm,
economy. You don't have to, the Disney record is long out of print, but you
mhm.
can you can buy uh, Jesse the Yodeling Cowgirl on the internet all day. So there's so much stuff out there. I guess we just feel that our very best stuff is still available, and there's not much need for something new. I personally have been writing a lot more songs, so I would like to see us do something new. But the consensus of the band is that maybe maybe we'll stick with what we know was good.
And you're the rare group that, while the music is excellent, the true experience is to see you guys live. I mean,
Yep.
your reaction on the Opry, the reaction I saw was just, you ended the first half the night that I saw you,
Uh,
and and just standing ovation for
yep.
this group that people were there for Sarah, people were there for Keith that were disappointed that night that he had to cancel. And here you guys come dressed up like you said, like you're in a Gene Autry film, and you just hammer them. And you have them right here. I mean, does it ever cease to amaze you that you can come out, and to some people, I mean this with all the respect in my heart, that are there for other artists on the Opry stage, come out, they might not know who you are, and you still get that incredible reaction.
Yeah. I mean, what can I say? As you can imagine, it's an incredible thrill. It's just
Mhm.
it's so rewarding. It's like we've spent a lifetime doing what we love, and a standing ovation at the Opry is so rare, and we've had four of them now.
Wow.
It's just I'm sort of speechless. I can't really describe how it feels, but you can imagine to a performer to have 4,000 people rise to their feet because and of whom, as you say, I'm sure two-thirds or uh, three-quarters of them never heard of us. It's entirely new to them, and they loved it.
But when you do go and you are the e-ticket attraction and people pay to come see you, I don't want to
Hmm.
discount that.
Yeah.
What's the reaction of the crowds like in that environment? I can imagine it's just as amazing as at the Opry.
Oh gosh, it depends so much. We've had a Sunday afternoon matinee appearances where everybody's gone to church and had a big lunch, and uh, 20% of the audience is asleep. It just depends, but generally, yeah, the reaction is generally really good. People have come to see us. They want to be entertained. They want to hear the new songs and the classics, and they want to come laugh. They know they're going to when they see us.
Mhm. It's amazing. And I just want to talk about for a moment the era where you joined the Grand Ole Opry. It seems like now the Opry doesn't so much, and correct me if I'm wrong, I could be pulling this out of thin air, but it seems like now the Opry doesn't so much do um, sort of in-house members like they did in the 50s, 60s, up through the 80s, where they weren't big recording acts, but they were people that were members of the Grand Ole Opry. Would you like to see something like that come back, where it's like sort of club Opry? If that makes any sense?
Oh, I don't know. There's so many new artists out there, and
Hmm.
they're trying to get new audience. I
Yeah,
completely get that. And some of those kids are really great, and
yeah,
I know why they're doing that, and it doesn't bother me. It's not my decision. They use
right.
us a lot, and I love it, and I love the Opry.
Oh
I'll
yeah,
just go when they ask us.
I love the Opry too. It's fantastic. And I gotta say, that night in early April, I think it was April 9th, was the date we saw you guys. Just
Mhm.
to remember that, because that's the date I flew in, and my oh gosh, it was exhausting. But we got to the show, and you guys made a new. I mean, I grew up with Toy Story, but I was like, huh, yeah, but I was like, oh, those are the guys. That's
No,
and you have a new fan in me from that Opry appearance. So
great.
Ranger Doug Green, thank you very much. This was a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here, sir.
Well, a joy talking to you. I hope somebody's learned a little something about us that they might not have known, and I really appreciate you taking the time, and very much appreciate your enthusiasm.
Well, thank you, sir. You take care, and I'm sure I'll come and see you guys on the road if you ever get up towards Virginia, Maryland way, or even
Oh, we
Pennsylvania.
do. We
Yeah,
do.
great, 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 great.
All right.
They were really a big highlight when we saw them
Yeah,
at
they
the
were.
Opry, and we weren't expecting to see them um, because it was just kind of a whirlwind of a week, and that was the first night we literally landed and went to the
Yeah, I
Opry.
say in the interview, I was so exhausted. I didn't go into it with him, but what had happened was I had a mid-morning flight, so it wasn't too terrible. It wasn't like I had to wake up early, or an afternoon flight. You were going to land about 45 minutes after me, so I just stuck around at the airport. I got to the airport, my luggage got to the airport. The carry-on I decided to check as well, because I got a free, your flight doesn't have a lot of overhead bin. You want to check it? It was just my hat tin, and I'm like, I don't really want to carry this. So in goes the hat tin. You've all seen me in the granite cowboy hat. That's kind of my signature hat now, because it actually
Mhm.
looks better on me than the black hats. So I wear that now, and I take it almost every time I go to Nashville. I will not be taking it for CMA Fest, because we'll be outside most of the time. I just don't need to risk it.
Yes, you
Um,
will be.
I'm not. I'm not taking it. I can guarantee you. But anyway, I might buy a straw hat there. Who knows? But anyway,
Right place for it.
that's true.
Like right in
Actually,
your favorite store, Boot Barn, right there on Broadway.
well, actually, I want to say this. I love Nashville. Love Lower Broadway. Love the Opryland area. Love Columbine Pike, because my boy Manuel. But
What's their address? I mean, just give them the address.
I don't know the address. They're
I
on that little
figured you
shop
did.
along Columbine Pike. Go walk in.
I
Weltsy
figured you
is
knew
there
it.
at the front. She's very, very helpful. And actually some of the stuff is very, very reasonably priced. Some of the stuff you'll go, yeah, it's more than I make in a month. But some of the stuff is actually very cool for a
Doesn't
living
stop you.
legend. What?
Doesn't stop you.
No, it doesn't. Very, very reasonably priced for a living legend. But anyway, where was I? So I had the hat tin. That got on a later flight. So I talked with the guy. I'm never checking it at, I think what it was is it's such a weird shape that it probably didn't hit the appropriate scanners and sensors. So it got, knocked off to the side, and somebody had to go, oh shit, this didn't make the flight. And put it on another flight to Nashville. And so from now on, if I have to check it under the plane, I will gate check it, where they literally take it from the jetway and put it underneath the plane. So
Right.
anyway, we went to the Opry, and then we went back to the airport after the Opry, or I should say, after somebody lost and found our car.
You're just as guilty of that as me.
And then we went back to the, and it's funny because you said, wait here. And I waited on this median, the grassy median, and they're calling me from the airport. Hey, your hack got in about 20 minutes ago. I said, yeah, we're coming. We're just getting out of the Opry, trying to find our car in the mall. We'll be there. And he just laughed. He goes, I know that feeling. And we got there.
See, you make fun of me, yet everybody knows that feeling. You get lost in that place. Plus, it's not a car I'm used to seeing. And when you click the clicker, it didn't honk. Who designed shit that doesn't honk these days? I mean, that was insane. And then, of course, the mishap when we pick up the car, we can't find how to open the trunk because it's hidden under a damn tail light.
Oh, gosh.
Embarrassing moments we shouldn't talk about on this show, but hey.
So when you come back again with me in June for CMA Fest.
You didn't catch that earlier when you said we'll be outside. I go, yes, you will be.
I said it will be outside. So I didn't.
This episode will likely have aired after that, and then we'll be arguing
this episode
over nothing.
Brought to you by the letter M for Manuel and the letter R for Rhinestones, or R for Riders in the Sky. For the Music Universe podcast, I'm Matt.
And I'm Buddy. Thanks for listening and watching. Be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and share button, and check us out at themusicuniverse.com for the latest news, reviews, and all kinds of other great stuff. Take care. This episode of the Music Universe podcast is sponsored by Aroma Retail.
Both Buddy and I own and love their machines. I use their travel-sized diffuser, and it fills my whole apartment.
And Matt, their home unit can get your whole house smelling refreshed. And if you have a lot of pets like I do, you definitely need it. With some of your favorite fragrances from resort destinations around the world, there is definitely something for everyone.
Yeah, they have 90 fragrances available for diffusing as room and linen sprays. I know you might like that because the dogs and cats jump on the beds. There's candles and even wax melters. Those are fun.
Head over to aromaretail.com and use code MUSICUNI10 for 10% off your order.
And that is 10 on that 10. MUSICUNI10. Scent your space with Aroma Retail.